and I just want to say hello to everyone here in the salon. This is an exciting one. We've had a few salons already, but this one in particular has been exciting for me because it involves the MVP and the demo. And I guess we could start it off with Jean, who heads product for Neighbourhoods, to share a little bit about, or offer a little bit of context into why we've thought of the MVP in this way, why we've gone about, I guess, our roadmap in the way we have, and then for today's conversation, what Michael and Shane are going to be talking about. Does that sound good, Jean?
Sure. So welcome everybody. This is my first salon, and so it's fun to be doing an introduction on my first one. I hope you'll be patient with me, and it's lovely to see so many familiar faces. I wanted to give a bunch of context about the demo before we jump into it, because there's a way in which it's not the product, right? It's just a test of the product. So the core thing that we're building is around replaying, which is the ability to create these reputations or social signals that we can share with each other. And so if you wanted to do this kind of app in a straight up way and was only doing one, you wouldn't create an entire language for it. You would just do it in Java or something. But this is one little piece that we wanted to test and show you what we were up to, and then we'll be building functionality. So in another 6 weeks or so, we'll come out and say, oh, now we've got the next layer of functionality. Let's show that off, and so on. So you'll get to see as we test. There's a lot that we're building that's kind of under the hood kinds of technologies. And so when we have an opportunity to show you something, that can come to the surface and be visible. So you can get a hands-on feel for what the technology is going to be able to do. This application is not really designed for end users. It's not that we expect that a bunch of you are going to walk away and go download and install it and start using it to share memes with each other. Technically, that's sort of possible. There's a couple of restrictions on it. One, there's some efficiency stuff that we want to keep improving before anybody starts running this on their own. Two, there's some more functionality that we want to add before somebody started to run off on it. And three, like I said, it's not our core technology. It's just a way to show what that core technology does. And so eventually I think that we'll throw this small app out into the community and let you play with it. But for today, we want to dig into what's underneath that's making this particular app possible, and show you the surface of it that comes up for people to participate in and see. And I want to thank everybody in the community that's contributed images, particularly Dave. Thank you for throwing so much wonderful, funny stuff our way. Many of you sent in some great memes for the application so we could show those off. And then I think that's about it. I will stick around if you have any questions for me. And otherwise, I can hand it over to Michael and Shane, who can dialogue together about what's happening with this application as we do the demo. Okay. Michael,
Yep.
hello.
Thank you. Hello, Michael. Hello, Shane.
Good to see everyone. So I can start sharing.
Sure. I can just offer some context for those who don't know. Michael's lead developer.
I've lost your audio, Sid. Can anyone else hear Sid? I cannot. Okay. Uh-oh. Demo day. That's the...
Is this better?
No. Yeah.
Huh. Was I audible at all? Not at all.
Yeah, you were like, Michael's our lead developer.
Oops. I hear you all.
Which is true. He
Uh,
is.
Oh, is that it? Like that's what? Okay. Um, yeah, I was just about to share. And Shane is a holochain developer and educator, and we thought of doing this fishbowl style conversation where they could be speaking about the MVP and demoing it. Michael would be demoing it while Shane could ask questions, and that could start us off on a larger discussion with a larger group, and also serves as a good demo for people who might be watching this video at a later date. So that's the format for today. I'd suggest, yeah, maybe the first 10 to 15 minutes letting Shane and Michael really get into it. But we could keep the second half of this conversation pretty interactive. And so if you have a burning comment or a question, just unmute yourself and jump in. Akira, I know you're here, so it would be nice to have thoughts and comments from the Kizuna team as well. And I can see a few other holochain developers, and I'd love to get those voices in as well. So, yeah, with that, Michael, please take it away.
Well, thanks. All right, I will share. Everyone see yourselves. Yeah, okay, cool. So this is split screen, hopefully visible, of the MVP and connected to two conductors. This is, I don't know, this is the back end running. The top two panes are conductor 1, conductor 2. And then you have web browser window 1 and 2. And yeah, so I've already uploaded the images, or these are a set of memes submitted by the community. And hopefully y'all can see. Yeah, cool. So yeah, so we can scroll through. Basically, this widget will display memes and allow you to upload new ones. I've already uploaded some, but we could go and upload, I don't know, upload one of them twice. Boomer chain meme. Get it twice. Nice. So right now we're displaying, well, there aren't any reactions on the memes. The sort order is kind of meaningless, or it's really based on when they were uploaded, but we could choose among these score computables. I can show, like, we're clicking the mind blown button and it's registering reactions in the back end, but the score is still 1 because we're only counting the lulls. If we switch to equal value, we'll see this become 3, which is the sum of 1 plus 2. Nice. And then we could do double weight the mind blowns as double, which would give us 5. And we could even do our own custom score computation. This is a replang expression, so don't worry, it's not as scary as it may look. But this is basically a function that ignores the arguments and assigns everything 1. We could add this as our kind of pointless score computation.
Could you explain that more, Michael? Like, what do you mean by known score computation?
Sure. Yeah. So basically what's happening here is there are broadly like 2 components of the backend. There's meme specific backend stuff, which is really just images, and these are just encoded as strings and stored in holochain. And then there's the meme image data type or entry type in holochain, and then there's data types within the social sense maker. And so the reactions and the score computations are stored in the social sense maker as replang expressions. And so this is like a crucial piece of where this differs from a standard holochain HAP implementation of this. It'd be very easy to re-implement this without the social sense maker, and you would just store the reaction data types as I don't know, some holochain entry type, and you'd express the score computation as a function, probably like a zone function, which would retrieve all the linked data on a given meme and compute a score. And so that's indeed kind of what we do, but importantly, if you were to do a pure holochain approach, when you build your WASM and build your app and send it to all the peers in the network, you would be fixing all possible score computations that you could write, just because of basically like the code is statically defining certain scoring computations or sorting algorithms, and maybe you could have a drop down in there, but you would be fixed in terms of what computations you could express. Whereas here, since this is actually code being interpreted by the RepLang interpreter, so we've like added a new layer of dynamicness on top of the HAP by allowing for interpretation of custom programs at execution time of the app. So that's why I'm able to basically dynamically create a new score computation and have it show up here, and then have it affect the feed ordering, if that makes sense.
So it sounds kind of like you're able to basically write business logic for the backend and send it to the backend and have it run without having to redeploy anything. You can send it back there and have it basically be computing and crunching numbers real time. Like almost, it looks like right away with the MyCool score comp.
Yeah, and so that's I think part of the motivation for us in building the social sense maker and having RepLang is that dynamic ability where you could change your feed ordering, and you don't have to redeploy the whole network, which is kind of a heavyweight requirement for just a small change that's relatively localized. So I think we see this as an important an important dynamic component of a system that deals with reputation data or social data, that you can on the fly change how you respond to that. And instead of having a more like monolith, or more like everything packaged into one HAP and you have to redeploy that whole thing.
I'm wondering, is the MyCool score comp, so one user did that, and I imagine that's stored on the holochain DHT. So is that available to other users on the network?
Yeah, so
oh, look at that. Cool.
It shows up here.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's just another value. Basically, let's say, so these are stored as so-called SenseMaker entries, like short for social sense maker, which is our point of integration between RepLang and holochain. And so there is an entry type which is called SenseMaker entry, and it basically stores RepLang program expressions. And so that entry type, SenseMaker entry, is used to store both the reactions and the score computations. And this may sound a little weird because we're used to thinking of maybe thinking of holochain entries as of a single type. In this case, we're kind of able, because of having an interpreter and a language, we're able to store disparately typed things as program text, basically, inside of a single SenseMaker entry. And so the SenseMaker entry benefits from all the standard holochain goodies of it gets validated, so we can check that it's that the computation results are evaluated correctly, and things are shared around the DHT as you'd expect. Cool. Yeah, so I guess I showed. Oh, and another thing to point out is that these two conductors, or these two web UIs connected to conductors, can have different score computations. On the right, right side really values the mind blowns, and the left side values the lulls. Oh, it turns out that gives you the same results up top. Okay, I have to click more things. Okay, so we're seeing a different sort ordering on the left versus the right. And while this is like a somewhat simplistic example, it showcases that basically it showcases that the user, the agent, can have their own view on a set of shared data. And this is like kind of in line with Holochain's agent-centric ethos. You can choose how your feed looks. Maybe the neighborhood as a whole would pick out some of these score computations as recommended. It could even, like going to a meta layer, it could actually have a feed of them and people could react to them and sort the score computations themselves. And then you could choose one of those and view your feed that way. But this basically opens us up to more, it gives the agent more power and gives them the ability to choose how they see their social reality instead of having it being imposed on them, which is the case in most platforms. You don't really have a choice.
I'm wondering how technical of a conversation are we open to? So I could start asking some technical questions, but I'm not sure if that is the intention of this call.
Yeah.
Gene, what do you suggest?
I think that we should go technical unless you want that to be responsive. So we could listen to what question.
Order. So yeah, go for the chain.
Cool. So if I wanted to kind of recreate something like this or make my own module, you had mentioned SenseMaker entries, which is a holochain entry definition. What other pieces do I have to be aware of if I want to make something like this?
Yeah, good question.
Maybe like front end and back end.
Yeah. So, how to begin? I guess. Yeah, so there's a number of things going on. And maybe we could kind of trace through what happens under the hood when I click these buttons and then load the feed, since that follows most of the data flow. So when I click this button, front end is making a Zoom call to the back end, calling a function called react to meme, I think, and that's passing in the entry hash of this meme and specifying which reaction data type I want. So in this case, it's saying it's a laughy pulse and not a mind blown. And then, when I refresh the feed, so there's an association made there using a holochain link where we're linking from the meme to the reaction, which is a SenseMaker entry. And so at refresh time, in order to compute the score of a given meme, we retrieve all the linked SenseMaker entries and feed those into the score computation, which gives us a score. We send that back to the front end. The front end can basically, the JavaScript sorts based on numeric inequality comparison of the score numbers. And so that's like specific to the MVP. Your question is how might I adapt this to other contexts? But yeah, I guess I explained that to illustrate that there's a sort of relation between the specific domain-specific widget or HAP and reputation data that you want to support inside of the social sense maker. And yeah, there's kind of a back and forth there where sense maker data and replang expressions need to be rendered or displayed or understood by the widget, by the HAP. And then there's also correspondence going the other way where you need to map your, in this case, it's your buttons of your emojis, map those to likes, or sorry, to reaction types inside of the social sense maker. And a component that we're not really worrying about here yet, but could be, well, we want it to be the case in the future, is that there might be kind of network effects around the type of reputation data that is used. And so it could be the case that there's a sort of like vibe or canonical standard around which reaction data types or which emojis are used in context that your HAP is adjacent to, and you might want to basically establish like a correspondent. You want your app to be hip to the reputation types that people are using. And so, yeah, that would depend on like usage of neighborhoods and basically neighborhoods existing and having users and kind of defining their specific culture. But I think, yeah, that's kind of a roundabout answer. But yeah, there's a sense in which widgets should be generic in keeping with the like generic tools, specific culture mantra. It should be generic enough where you could swap out the emojis and you could make it such that users can use whatever reputation or reaction or social sense-making data that's relevant in their context and apply that to the widget. And so, yeah, in this case, we chose lols and mindblowns, but it would be fairly easy to open that up and make it so that the meme widget is a very simple thing where it basically just allows agents to upload images into Holochain and retrieve them out of Holochain and have a hook around scoring them. And then the emojis and how they're rendered could be kind of made configurable so that neighborhood could easily adopt this into their cultural context. Did I answer the question?
Yeah, maybe I can try and kind of paraphrase the pieces back, see if that makes sense. So there's the original, the meme, the content that gets stored as a holochain entry. Every single reaction is stored as a holochain entry and linked to that meme. So there's an association between all the reactions and the meme. It also sounded like you're at the end. You were kind of sounded like you were alluding to it, but the types of reactions are also an entry itself, some kind of, or at least some kind of data type that is stored in Holochain. So it sounded like you could ostensibly add different emojis, or because it's all just stored on the DHT anyways. Can you scroll up to the top of one of them, and can you do the custom score down arrow on one of them? So it sounded like that is also stored as a holochain entry as well, right? So
Yeah.
everything here is kind of available to everyone on the network.
Yeah.
And so when you click on the choose a score computation, that sends a request to the backend and says, "Hey, get all the memes that are are relevant in my current feed." It doesn't seem like there's too many now, but it could be like maybe paginated or something. Run the computation associated with the lulls only, and then return that back and associate that with each of the memes.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of the data flow. It sounds like.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Cool. Maybe we can open it up to questions about that if anyone has any.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're also in the phase, if someone does have a comment or question, just unmute yourselves and jump in.
Go for it.
Social coordination engine of sorts that we're talking about with neighborhoods to be workable with any tool. So you could have this same kind of tool built with Kazuna, where maybe Replang allows each community to decide who enters the chat group, who can speak in a chat group. Are those the kinds of things that are possible? What do you say?
Yeah. Is that for me or Gene? Go ahead.
Either. Maybe Gene. This might be a good one for you.
Sure. It's certainly our intention to get to a place where that's possible. I want to clarify that we picked 2 emoji here as a way to get away from upvote, downvote, or thumbs up, like the usual things that you're expecting to have there. Although we're used to having some reactions, right? And so it was combining this thing of you can like something or clap on it with the customization of picking the emoji that's right for this community. You could pick something else. You could also put in there something like a rating, which is going to have a different math that's going to be performed, like X out of Y with a Z count, so 4 out of 5, and it's been rated 5 times. And that one might be much more standardized, where this might have emojis that are quite different. And so if you're in a surfer community, you're going to have different emojis than if you're in a kayaking community, and that would be completely fitting for that group. And yet the math on the back is kind of a similar function. And so what you can imagine happening here is at some point we're going to say somebody's gathered enough reputation in the space, their images are being liked a lot, that they should be given some kind of award. And so we reach a threshold of activity. They've uploaded X number of images and their stuff is consistently well rated. Then maybe they get an award of Master Memer or something like that. Now, Master Memer wants to go to secondary community and get in as a member and doesn't want to go through the newbie behaviors. Some other community might be able to recognize that in their membrane and say, yes, come on in. You can be a member in our community because we know you're a Master Memer. This is the kind of, we're doing very basic stuff here that then can be computed into threshold scores that can affect the governance of the community, which might be interesting for Kazuna and others.
And I guess it's worth stating that what's really critical and important about this is this kind of social coordination occurring through a holochain. So you don't actually need a central authority to be playing some kind of escrow to ensure that we can coordinate among ourselves. So if I have owned, I don't know, 500 lols emojis in the last month, everyone in the community knows those are legit. They haven't been, fudged. I can't bribe Michael to generate them artificially because they have to be validated by everyone in the network. And so it creates these possibilities, I guess, where groups of people can play with each other without some Zuckerberg style person coordinating this for us, which I think is a very interesting pattern that we haven't had at scale. And personally, I'm very intrigued, by where things like that could take us. Because obviously, at this point, we're talking about memes and lols and simple social coordination. But I think the spectrum could be pretty wide. We could easily start spilling into commercial activity, transactions, and other more critical interactions that could start pervading larger parts of our life, I guess. But that was my riff.
Yeah.
um,
Just adding on,
yeah,
if I may,
yeah.
it seems important and cool to me that the the riffing on what the data is and what the computations are and what those thresholds are and what it means to get a badge, and do you earn a badge if you get 500 likes, or does that get gamed and then people decide, okay, it has to only be we need to add another constraint, or it has to be more likes, or likes only from people who have a certain amount of cred themselves. Like that, the computations and the thresholds and the kind of social charter or the code that is being run to decide things in the neighborhood, that at least a significant chunk of it could operate kind of at DHP propagation speed. Like it doesn't, as I was saying earlier, like you don't have to redeploy the whole network every time you want to update some business logic. So if you could define those computations as SenseMaker entries or using replang, would allow you to tweak and kind of riff, have the community like collectively riff on what its sort of governing code is. Yeah, which seems exciting to me in terms of like speed of creative stuff happening.
That was, I think, just a very interesting topic. Yeah, Jean, do you want to share a comment?
Yeah, building a little bit on that, I think as somebody who's been playing on social tools for a long time, I get frustrated about the difference between the popularity contest, what did everybody like, versus discovery of new information. And so being able to have different sorting things that allow me to find, oh, this is what everybody else is liking right now, but also go, what's the odd thing that people haven't found yet? How can I discover that thing? Having that power in my hands feels really exciting to me.
Yep. And I guess what that means is traditionally those kinds of activities were locked into people who had fundraising skills or development skills. And you could be seeing new kinds of people running communities without those skills starting to coordinate activities among their groups, which is exciting.
Yeah,
What would
Web 2
that?
is like
Yeah.
Web 2 is totally the popularity game, and so you have to find ways to like hack back in and force Twitter or force Facebook to give you the ordering that you want. Like I just want the fresh stuff. It's hard to get the fresh stuff, and so I think that that's a really important thing to put back in the hands of our community activators, who are probably going to be wanting to do lots of discovery work of what's happening in a lot of the community.
Which I guess is an interesting question for developers as well. And Michael, I know you touched on this right at the end, because as developers, and this I know we get while speaking with developers, there's a tendency to hard code rules in their code. Would this mean projects that are using neighborhoods would have to create or allow communities to decide rules of coordination among themselves? And is that the new paradigm I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think, and there's a kind of maybe a change in scope, or like I don't know what the right word is, like humility or something on the part of developers to not I don't know, in my opinion, like current platformy tech is kind of very, it's a bit
Imposing?
arrogant. I don't know. Yeah, it's imposing, and it's like it, and kind of by necessity. I don't fully blame them, but like if you make say like Reddit or something, and people go there, and everything is defined by you, now it's on you to build kind of all the other little widgets yourself and guess at what the users want. But in this, and I think this is kind of a holochain ethos thing. It's not just us. It's like more widespread. But the idea of modular and smaller scoped widgets, kind of, I think of it as related to like the Unix philosophy of doing one thing and doing it well, and allowing, in this case, like the CA, the community activator, or the neighborhood to take these little less imposing widgets and stitch them together into a social fabric.